Well, it's been a little while and we've been busy. So I wanted
You
to,
say that every time we do these.
well, we are busy every time. Most of the time, what happens is that I get around to saying we really need to let everybody know kind of we're still around, what's going on, because we get so busy that I forget that we haven't actually updated or communicated a lot of the times. And so every time we're in the place of doing one of these, it's because we've been busy and I forgot. so that's kind of where we're at is we've been busy and I forgot to kind of let everybody know and keep everybody up to date with what's happening. But we kind of knew this season coming into summer was going to be busy.
And churches always talk about getting ready for summer, begins to slow down, and we take it easy during the summer. And I, I think that's not exactly true, even for churches.
Well, one of the things I noticed is that, like, I don't know, two out of the last three churches we were in were the pastors weren't there. They took the weekend off,
Which is good.
they were gone, and so it maybe it slows down for them a little bit to get their breaks, but it seems like it ramps up for us. So we've got a very busy. We're in the middle of a very busy 2 month or so season,
Yeah.
which I like. I know you could probably back off with a pace of hair, but I love that pace. I love the consistency of ministering. We've ministered in three churches in 3 weekends plus one in the midweek, and we've got a week off here and kind of goes in another spurt. So, but it's good. It's good. Thought we would kind of catch you up on all of that. So
Hope everybody's, if you're in the South or in the Southwest,
oh,
you're staying cool. We are not staying cool in Houston, Texas.
people ask us about what's it like living in a motorhome, and in 98% of the stuff I love, but I don't know, it soaks in heat. So it's 101, 102 degrees here in Houston, and
With high humidity.
oh my goodness, it's hot. We're fine inside, but going outside is unpleasant right
Yeah, he
now.
asked me if I wanted to do a video outside today, and I just looked at him.
Like,
He said,
are
"With
you
that, are you insane?"
are you out of your mind? It's hot. It's hot. We were out working a few days ago and spent about 2 hours out in the sun. And boy, I came in and I was done for the day. It was exhausting. I don't know how some people do it. I think of Heath, our son, who works in a garage, and he's a mechanic, and he works
Oh my
in
gosh.
and I like, oh my goodness, I don't even know how you survive that. But
Well, one
anyway,
of the things you've done in over the last couple of weeks is you've been gathering information for our taxes and stuff. And so you came up, you've done some of your wizardry with database work and pulling down information, and you couldn't find an app to do what you wanted to do, so he wrote his own. So if you can't find it, he writes his own. And you had some interesting revelations over the last 18 months and a couple of humorous statistics that came out last night.
what I did was I downloaded, managed to find a way to download Google Maps timeline, which we have kind of tracks everywhere you go. And so I downloaded all that data, brought it into a database. I've been working with it for a few days just to kind of organize it in a way I can interpret it. And so some of the numbers were pretty funny. The overall in the last 18 months since we officially started this, we've traveled 146,000 miles.
And you wonder why I'm tired.
79,000 some odd for 2022, and already over 60,000 this year.
Now let's put this. Most of that is either driving or flying. We've done a train or two, some buses, but there was an interesting one though that
Okay, in my defense, Google doesn't necessarily know exactly how you're moving. So
Out of
Um,
100, how many thousand
out of
miles?
a total of 146,000 miles,
How many of that was walking
6 miles walking
for you?
for me. So,
And it was what
point
was
zero zero
zero?
0.004% of the time that of that was walked. The rest of it, I had some type of transportation, camels. I mean, anything else. It kind of
Golf
guesses.
carts through the
It
airports.
kind of guesses how you're moving on some of those, and it's imperfect science, but it was humorous that
Six point two
it
miles.
figured out that I had walked 6 miles in the last 18 months of traveling 150,000 miles. So, yeah, I'm not big on walking. It's kind of the way that comes out. So, and we knew that. I actually wear that pretty proudly. I'm okay with that. I have to say though, we live in a 400 square foot house, and I suspect I've walked 6 miles without leaving this building in the last 18 months. But I don't have my phone on me all the time when that's happening, so it doesn't know that.
No, it
That's
doesn't.
my defense. But uh, it has. I mean, we sort of dreamed an adventure, and it has been that and then some. But the last month and a half, we've covered a little ground. We've been a local a little more than
Yeah.
usual.
People
Uh,
have been asking us when we're going to be going international again, and we don't know. At this point, there's nothing that we have scheduled, but that's based on where God wants us to go and when He wants us to go. And so I know there are people who would like to see us come, and that will be in timing and how God provides for that. So we know we'll be
yeah.
traveling abroad again, but I don't. It just this year it was to slow that down a little bit. Of course, we had a new grandchild born, and there was some complications around that birth, so we needed to be here to help family
Well,
and
even in the
fill
midst
in
of
gaps.
even in the midst of being here, we've been gone a lot. But we have actually been making a point of trying to be back here during the week, even when we travel. And I think that's probably we've got a string here. We're going to be gone for about 3 to 4 weeks straight in July. Uh, but on the whole, we've tried to be back here during the week a lot more. Um, we've done some stuff. We went to San Antonio. That's about 3 hours away.
Mm-hmm.
We spent a weekend there. Worked in the mission vineyard there with some of the leaders and the worship team. And you did a class on emotional healing and deliverance and things with some of their leaders. And then just well, we hadn't even mentioned. I mean, it's kind of one of those things. I promised Marie a special cruise for our 25th wedding anniversary.
Which was 15 years
Which,
ago.
well, okay, you don't have to hold it over me. I did
I'm not.
deliver. I delivered. We went to Alaska
Yes, we did.
on a Alaskan cruise in mid-March. I mean mid-May, and so I delivered on my 25-year anniversary promise on our 41st year. So, ladies, don't give up.
It was amazing. I have to say, if you haven't been to Alaska or done that kind of a thing, to go, I highly recommend going. And it was also a thing of just even though it was quote unquote vacation and we thoroughly enjoyed it and it was relaxing and it was wonderful. It's still practicing what we teach teach and encourage everybody to do is always be listening no matter where you are. And you had a couple of encounters on the boat, and
We had
I had one
several.
or two, and it was they had an ecumenical service on Sunday morning that how they worked it is they have a chaplain on the ship, and but for the service they just invite everybody to kind of run the service themselves. So it was really interesting. There were a lot of different denominational backgrounds and stuff, but there weren't that many people there. But it was encouraging in the sense of on a Sunday morning on a cruise ship, about 30 people got together,
It was sweet.
and it was sweet, and the presence of the Holy Spirit was there, and
We got to
got to
minister, got to
minister
share.
and share, and it was really a special time, unexpected. I wasn't expecting to have that kind of a opportunity on the
Hmm.
cruise ship, but that was also pretty special as well.
And there's a good number of people who were in ministry who were in that meeting, and we got so much opportunity to encourage and to speak over
To
some
share
of them, to share
stories.
stories with them. It was good. It was a good time. And then we just, I mean, we got to go back to Jackson Vineyard
Mm,
Jackson, and we've been back, but it's the first time we've been back and spoke since
we
we
left
left.
as pastor.
So 18 months. And what was one of your? We kind of shared a sense as we kind of came in. What
It
tell
was
that?
interesting because we've been gone officially for 18 months or whatever, and really hadn't been to church there. And when we walked through the door Sunday morning, I think we were. I know I was, and you were too. We were both overwhelmed with the incredible, tangible sense of coming home.
Yeah, uh, and it
The
was interesting because of our conversation as we drove into town.
Yeah, because when we drove back into the town, I looked at Duke and I said, "This is the first time since we've been gone, and we've come back on other purposes to the area." So, but this is the first time where I don't feel like I'm coming home back home. I feel like a visitor to the area. But when we went into the church, that was totally different.
Radically different. Uh, you have that sense of just how much you miss some of that, and the people and the sense of family there, which we've shared probably is deeper than anywhere we've ever been. So that
They
was
are
a
special in the
very
spirit,
powerful.
and the place is special, and we're just so not amazed, just we knew it, but the couple who came and we transitioned that the church was transitioned to, and Bo and Rachel Burnham, their leadership and what God's doing in that place is just really, really encouraging, and it's still the same. It's just I can't describe it, but it is a truly unique and special place, and it's always encouraging to for us to be there to encourage them, and they encourage us as well. So
Yeah, they spoke a blessing over us. Bo
yes,
did as we got there to minister, which was very just it was encouraging all the way around. I may post a clip of that. It was very special to us.
and
But
it coincided with the message that because I preached that Sunday morning, and the topic was on honor, which is a word God had given me for the year for the church at large about growing and the importance in growing in honor, that we honor. And he didn't know what I was talking about. And then before we get up, he says, I need to do this because we've been talking about honor here. And I just looked at him and I said, really? And he goes, yeah, so let us honor you. And then how Holy Spirit always orchestrates all that stuff together. It was really, really nice. And
very,
then that night, we got to be with friends from Cuba
yeah,
who were in the area at the same time ministering at the Point Church there in Brandon, where we were scheduled for that next Sunday where you
but,
were preaching,
but we wound up ministering that night and
and
doing
with them
right.
and just reconnecting and spending time with our friends and brothers and sisters from Cuba, and hopefully that'll be on the calendar at some point where we can go to Cuba again, or you can go back and I can go for the first time. But unexpected, it's always being instant in season and out of season as the opportunities present. And then the following weekend, we were there at the Point, and that church is also a really special place because the word that describes them is they're always expectant for God.
They are a group that every time you go, their anticipation that God's going to do something is something we don't see everywhere for sure. I love that church. Jim Taylor and Anna, his wife, are amazing people. We got to stay in their home while they were vacationing. They took off on a trip, and we got to house
House sit.
sit and spend time there. It was again a sweet sweet time. We love that church and love those guys. And then in between, we had a sort of a this was special to us. We have, in our role as mission mobilizers with Vineyard, we have some responsibilities with the regional, some of the regional leaders regarding the advancement of missions in the Vineyard, and so we took an Amtrak
Amtrak.
train, which we've only done a couple of times before, but we took a train from Jackson to Champaign, Illinois, and spent a day with the leadership over the Midwest Central region. That's Mike
Mike and
and
Julie
Julie Yoder, and also with Happy and Diane Lehman, which are like long time leaders, some of the most influential people in the history of Vineyard, and so just such a just we had a great time with the formal meetings. It was super super good time, kind of planning and strategizing missions for the region. But I'm just the time getting to just be in the home and spend personal time with Happy and Di Lehman was worth any trip you ever want to take. That to me is just was the highlight. I hope you're watching, guys, because we love you guys, and it is so so special to be able to have that time with you guys. Anyway, wow, I got emotional just saying that.
Well, you talk about honor, that time that we honor people just for who they are, not based, I think, because people are due honor because they're valuable, but taking the time to be able to spend time with those who have been so faithful to say yes to God all these years and to be pursuing God passionately that whole time and have poured into so many and have so much wisdom, humor, insight, and truly are transparent and vulnerable at the same time. And you genuinely know they genuinely care. Is, we all need that. And then for God to be able to speak to them through us at the end, that genuinely impacted them as well, that they are so valuable.
Yeah.
And their time's not
Yeah.
over yet. And just to be able, I mean, it was such a, like you said, that was a real special moment for honoring.
Yeah. But there are in ministry, you do this a long time, and there's always these moments that stick in your mind. There are highlight moments, opportunities that come along that you just kind of look around and say, "How did we get here? This is amazing." And truly, just being able to have relationship with these guys and call them friends is one of those things. It's one of those you just look around and go like, "This, I feel very privileged, and we feel very privileged to know you guys, Happy and Diane." Uh, so we went up there, spent a day, turned around on a train trip, and we haven't done a sleeper car before that, so we did the little roomette and had it was an adventure. It was a good
Yes,
good
it
time.
was. It was close. It promoted closeness between us.
the little sleeper car roomette thing that we had, I think if I remember right, it's 6 foot 6 inches ish
In length.
long, and it's about 40 inches wide. And
So,
which I'm 38 by myself. So and
it was cozy.
It was cozy. We had to take turns breathing there for so. But no, we had a good time. It was a great way to travel. It was a great way to travel, but it was a little tight sometimes. And then
It got so close we would just crack up laughing.
like watching one of us try to put on a shirt, it was something of that nature. It's like everybody, you gonna move? Stay over here. Don't.
It was Tetris.
Oh goodness. So we got home, and then the next weekend we were in Brenham, Texas.
Never have been to Brenham, Texas. And Brenham, Texas is a big deal because it is the home of Bluebell Ice Cream Creamery.
If you'd have told me that, I'd have been going to that church.
It's right across the street from the church. It's like, oh, this is, they already have the favor of God that's obvious on them.
I gave them some prophetic words on how to better market that, but no, I think that's a pretty good selling feature. So,
but we got to spend time with Joel and Danelle Knox, the pastors.
Super people. You know, I love our how we met story. It's just one of those kind of how things kind of work out. Small world. I went to the Grand Canyon after our Phoenix National Conference a few years ago. It was like 3 years ago.
Really?
It was wild. And so when I went to the Grand Canyon the day of the conference ended, and was up there standing on the bluff, and I saw somebody come over walking around who had a vineyard music shirt or coat on or something, and I went over to them and said, I perceived, my discernment kicked in. I think you might actually have something to do with Vineyard. And it turned out it was Joel Knox. It was Joel and Danelle, and that's how I met them. And then as we passed on information and got to know each other a little bit, standing on the Grand Canyon, told him we were from Mississippi and had pastored that church. And that was the first church that they were introduced to Vineyard in. They were ministering or working in Jackson, Mississippi as one of their early ministry opportunities at a church there. Mm-hmm. And they met the Vineyard through that church 20-something years ago.
Plus, more than that.
So, you know, small world, crazy stuff. And here we are in that church in Brenham, Texas, that I didn't realize was the same person from the Grand Canyon until well after we were on our way to, you know, that this thing was in process. So small world, and crazy how sometimes God puts that stuff together.
What God do in Brenham?
You know, the sweetness of that place there, that when you talk expectancy, you know, Joel came out of worship and said, I just sense a hunger. And if you're hungry, you know, God's going to touch you today, that kind of thing. And I had a sermon planned. I was getting ready to preach, and it just felt that, man, the sense of the presence of God when Joel said that. We just went straight into ministry. Mm-hmm. And I'd already met this person with something going on with her hand, sprained or something, had swelling in the fingers and was having problems with it. And I knew I wanted to pray for that. So we just kind of started and went straight to that. And praying almost immediately with the first, just praying quickly. She was moving her hands, said she had mm-hmm. mobility and no pain. So that was exciting. And we spent probably 20 minutes or more before I ever started mm-hmm. preaching, just praying for people and having words and different things. And some of the highlights, I remember a woman that I saw standing along the back of the room. And I don't even remember, I can't even tell you for sure what I said, but I knew I began to speak over her more the basics of identity. You know, you're the child of God. God has put his hand on you, and you're the apple of his eye. That kind of just kind of identity statements. And she's responding, you know, weeping. She's responding very significantly. And afterwards, she came up. She said, "You know, I came to church today asking the Lord, please, just let me know that I'm yours. Just tell mm-hmm. me again that I'm yours." And, you know, you just never know. You never know. I think all the time how sometimes you give you give somebody a word from, as if it's from the Lord. You know, we're trusting that it's from the Lord. But sometimes they seem so general. And, you know, I could speak that same statement of identity over any human in the room, mm-hmm. right? And it's true. But you never know what that person, where they're at and what's going on in that moment. And that always amazes me. Always amazes me. So what did you what was your kind of takeaway that week? That was a special week. It was a special place. We just say we loved the Brenham Church. We
Mm-hmm.
enjoyed that a lot. Uh, they've been around a long time. I think the pandemic did its damage to them in some ways, and they've recovered well. They're moving forward. It was just such a neat spirit in the place.
I think that's one of the things that God keeps saying over and over. Part of what He's saying is He's moving, and churches are transitioning from where they had been. The word I had for the church that Sunday morning was, you are now transitioning from where you have been, not even to, and not to, it was about Ebenezer, the Ebenezer stone. We put those in place, and the thing was, look back to where you had been as a remembrance and an encouragement of who he is and what he's done, but not to stay looking back. That's just there as a reminder, but not to change the focus to not even on what's just going on in the present, but now to the future. I think that's the encouragement for the church as a whole, is looking toward the future. We're transitioning, and it's a step at a time. We look back for the encouragement as a reminder, but not to stay looking back. That a lot of things will change. Models are changing. He doesn't change. The message doesn't change. The kingdom doesn't change. But what he's doing now, and he's doing a lot of sovereign things now, moving in the now for the future. And our challenge is to be able to see it and to say yes to it, even when it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But he will always give us the opportunity to choose. And if we will just say yes, even if we don't understand it, we don't know the specifics, that's okay. The first major hurdle for us is just to go, this is what you're doing. No matter what that looks like, we say yes to moving forward.
Yeah, and it struck me again. Something struck me even today. We were at the Oasis Vineyard here in Tomball today, and just this thought in the Oasis Church. I love that church. Love the people. Good leaders there. But again, it's one of those that the pandemic did a number on. Right? We so many churches we go into are struggle with size. They maybe were about to break through. So many stories we hear. We were 100, breaking 100, we were breaking 200, we were breaking 300, and pandemic hit, and man, it's almost like we're starting over. And we hear that kind of story constantly. I mean, that's almost the norm. And it just struck me again today as we were at Oasis. It's so easy if professional ministers that we think that this thing is about all the the performance, that we get everything's got to look right, everything's got to do right, we've got to put on the right show and all of that. And that's not what they're doing, but it struck me how important that we break away from that mentality. And I think if nothing else, the pandemic sort of pulled that rug out from under everybody. And what's left is the family. What's left is the community. And you know what? The healthiest thing that can happen is that we figure out, and I'm talking to myself because this was one of those things I've battled over the years, that the community is what you have. The gathering is not your community. Right? The filling the house is not your community. The community is what's standing when the pandemic is over. Community is what's standing when the rug gets pulled out, and all of a sudden the performance isn't enough.
That's right.
And so we do quality. You still do what you can do to be good at, as good as you can be at presenting the word, the times of worship, all the we commune with the saints. We do the communion and the elements and all of these things that are important to us as believers. We do those and we want to do those well. But that's not what stands when it's over. What stands when it's over is the community.
Mm-hmm.
And
is it a healthy, maturing community?
and so you look around these churches that they say we've survived it and we're moving forward. Well, what's moving forward is rich,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's that picture of purifying the gold and all that. And listen, we hate to see anybody not be with us. I hate
Right.
every time somebody leaves the church for any reason. It always hurts. It always bothers you. But the truth is, the gold, what's standing now, you can build on.
Mm-hmm.
And I know just that sense everywhere we go, you have that sense of, man, what's here wants to be here.
Yeah.
Those that are here right now, you can build on that. They want to be here. They're serious about it. They weren't shaken out. And and the other side of that, as I'm just thinking about it, I'm getting preachy here, is that those of you who got who kind of taken the opportunity to back out of church because it was convenient during the pandemic to just choose other ways. It's time for you to go home.
Mm-hmm.
It's time to re-engage because this is not a time for idleness. I think the Lord is moving. The one consistency everywhere is we're seeing God move. It's incredible, some of it. Anyway, I got preachy. Sorry.
That's okay.
Okay.
It's what you do.
You could have gone all day without that. All right. So,
So you asked me earlier what it was that I was seeing over the years so far, and what I'm seeing is hunger.
it is more. There's more.
There's hunger for more of the presence of God. There's a growing hunger for a growth in individuals themselves, a maturing of growth in that, and a growing hunger to see the kingdom move, be going forward outside of the walls of the church. It's just the word is just a growing hunger and desire for God himself and for what he's doing. And that's very encouraging.
It is. It is. We're hear stories like from the youth meetings and youth camp and things where it's just there's a heightened expectancy.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I wrote the question: what's the role of expectancy in seeing God move? We used to make a big deal out of do we have enough faith, and I think that's a thing, but honestly, the evidence of faith is not confidence; it's expectancy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's like how do you have faith? What's it look like? It looks like expectation. I don't think it looks like confidence. It looks like expectation. And so we find that the churches that we go into that are, you can almost sense they're prepared, they're ready.
Mm-hmm.
They think something's going to happen today.
And a lot of times when we ask them, well, what is it that you want or need? And it's not uncommon. One of the consistent things that is asked for is, would you just light the fire again?
Yeah.
Blow on the embers and light the fire again. And it's like, okay, sometimes I don't know, sometimes I think, well, that's it. Well, that's more than enough.
Yeah.
To do that, to be able to just be part of that. It's still there. It's just that breath of the Spirit blowing again, and it's coming together in unity, desiring that. It reminds me a lot of the Acts chapter 2. They were all together with one purpose and in one mind, and that was seeking Him. and he always shows up.
Yeah. Well, we've gone longer than I normally go. This is awesome, though. I've had fun with this.
We have a full schedule coming up. We'll just summarize it with going to churches in Virginia and North Carolina.
Our next one is Greeley, Colorado.
Colorado.
I can't wait for that. Colorado, come on. Okay, so that's in the Denver area. So we'll be in Greeley, Colorado church, middle of July. I think it's like 2 weeks from today.
2 weeks from today.
And then we will be from there. We'll be headed to Virginia, our friend
in the Williamsburg area.
In the Williamsburg area, and then we will be up in the Richmond area at the Harmony Vineyard, middle of the week. After that, and then we head to
North Carolina,
Holly Springs, North Carolina. And we'll be ministering at the Holly Springs Vineyard. The weekend right before the National Conference, which is in Ridgecrest, Black Mountain area of North Carolina. So very, very busy schedule the next 4 weeks, 5 weeks. Then we actually come out of there, and we'll talk more about what's after that. But we've got all kinds of stuff coming later in the year. But that's our immediate future, and it'll be busy enough to do another podcast or two off of those. But
before we leave, I wanted to give a plug for this book. It's called A Road of Unimagined Adventure by Kevin Springer, who was one of our mentors, and he was the guy who helped John Wimber write a lot of his books. He was a vineyard pastor for years. And this is a book that is his memoirs, but he's telling stories in a way that are designed to show what your life can be like and what it's meant to be like when you hear God at different, especially key moments in our lives, that God will always give us some big word of what it is he wants us to do, where he's sending us. And Kevin shares he and his wife Suzanne's story of their life, how it was those big words of God that shaped their lives, and their lives were so much more than what they had ever dreamed or thought of. And it's a great book on the reality of what it's like to be a leader, to be in ministry, and to risk big with God. Kevin used to have this thing, a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal.
Yeah.
And that pretty much described their lives. And it's well written. He's entertaining. He's humorous. He's real. And this will just be I just highly recommend it. It'll be a really big encouragement to you. So, A Road of Unimagined Adventure.
And we can vouch for that.
Yes, we
can vouch for him and his story. We can vouch for that road to unimagined adventure. It works that way. Like I said, Kevin used to he would always say in a staff meeting, he'd say, what's the BHAG?
For the year.
What's the big, hairy, audacious goal that God's giving us? That always stuck with me. So anyway, I haven't read it yet. Marie's read it, so I'll get to it, Kevin. I promise. I'm looking forward to it.
So what do you want to leave them with?
Man, I don't know. Go with God. It's a good trip. I promise you. Thank you for sharing time with us, and we look forward to seeing all of you. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.